Okay, good afternoon. My name is Dr. William Weber. I'm the medical director of the sleep department at Greenwich Hospital. I was asked to give a talk about sleep and the importance of it. It's a topic obviously that affects all of us. Few things in life feel as refreshing or as good when we get a good night's sleep. Why do you think that is? It's because the body as well as the mind requires, enough of sleep and good quality sleep. And so to say that, sleep is an incredibly important foundation of health, certainly, it doesn't get the consideration that it deserves. So we should learn to prioritize sleep. And it should be right up there with eating and exercising. We don't get enough of sleep or enough of shut-eye as we should, our body essentially pays the price. So, lack of sleep, is related to coronary artery disease, diabetes, obesity, even is related to depression. There's a recent study I was looking at that was done in 2021 in older adults, found that when people get less than 7 hours of sleep a night, they feel more angry, more frustrated, more lonely. So getting a healthy amount of sleep can, really bolster a lot of areas of our life, and even the immune system. Our immune response is more robust. It helps us fend off more viruses, more infections when we get a proper night's sleep. Yeah, and sometimes, sleep gets thrown off by temporary situations. There could be a lifestyle change, there could be a recent loss, there could be financial difficulties, or just relationship difficulties. Sleep issues range from harmless disruptive challenges such as snoring or talking in your sleep to more substantial problems such as insomnia or even sleep apnea, which is a difficulty with breathing when you sleep. So, if you have difficulty with sleeping, it's a good idea to check in with your doctor to review your symptoms. One of the big problems that I see, which is ubiquitous for poor sleep, is the amount of screen time that the people use, these devices, these smart devices, these phones, computers, televisions. They use this late at night. And these devices emit artificial blue light, which inhibits our own natural release of melatonin. This could be detrimental. We should learn to kind of shut off these screens about 90 minutes before bedtime. And so the sleep environment has, a big impact as well. It should be cool and comfortable and dark. I wouldn't be surprised if you kind of implemented these things with less screen time at night, making the room a little bit cooler and dark. I wouldn't be surprised that just by doing these simple sleep practices that you'll find that, you may get a better sleep and may feel like a better version of yourself. And so the question is, why do we need sleep? Why do we sleep? Scientists have been grappling and struggling to answer this. We do know it's fundamental to our survival because sleep is involved with energy balance, tissue repair, metabolic function, and immune regulation. Research has long been associated with sleeping problems and cognitive disorders. Things such as migraine headaches, memory impairment, Alzheimer's. One of the major discoveries of recent has been the lymphatic system, which seems to explain the connection between sleep and brain health. The lymphatic system essentially washes out brain products of cellular metabolism in the brain. And we found that this system is 10 to 15 times more active when we sleep. And so the question is, well, how could we improve our lymphatic system and better detox our brain? The answer would be just make sure you get enough of sleep. Sleep also directly supports, function of other major organ systems. And, how is that? It's by reinforcing the circadian rhythm, which is the internal timekeeping system. Everything we do requires energy, from food digestion to release of hormones. Even the cardiovascular system will, during sleep, when the heart rate and blood pressure is lower, this is the time for the heart to recover and repair itself. So it would be inefficient and too much expenditure of energy for systems to be essentially turned on all the time. You know, it's like musicians in an orchestra, right? Everything has to be coordinated. There must be a conductor. So melatonin is the influencer of the circadian rhythm. You know, it's the conductor that regulates sleep time. When we don't sleep enough, or when our schedule becomes more erratic, staying up late, watching television, stuff like this, melatonin stops being that conductor, right? It gets inhibited, it's not released. We have inconsistent bedtimes, and we're no longer making good music at that time. You know, good consistent sleep times help align all the systems together. And I would say most adults need at least 7 hours of sleep. You know, if someone says that, you know, they could get by with only 6 hours, they're mostly getting by with probably excessive caffeine, maybe daytime naps, or, you know, other simulations. It may be true that older adults are less affected by sleep loss. It doesn't necessarily mean that they require less sleep. Usually people, when they get older, they have more chronic medical conditions, and they're usually on different medications that can suppress different stages of sleep. Also, the older we get, the circadian rhythm becomes less robust, which can interfere with our sleep patterns. So it's important for older adults to get morning daylight exposure. You know, consistent wake-up times is key. Daily physical activity, social interactions, these are all very important. So if you're wondering if you're getting enough of sleep, there are a few reliable signs. You know, one of them is if you feel you want to take a nap before lunchtime, before noon, that would indicate you're not getting enough of sleep. Or another would be if you fall asleep as soon as your head touches the pillow at night, that would indicate that your body's essentially starving for sleep. A healthy sleeper usually takes several minutes, potentially have a little bit some tossing and turning before they actually fall asleep at nighttime. Now, there are other various sleep pathologies that can contribute to daytime fatigue. Probably one of the most common ones would be sleep apnea, which is a problem with breathing during sleep, and it's astoundingly prevalent in the population. It's about 1 out of 4 to 1 out of 5 people, which is a big number, suffers from problems with breathing during sleep. And one of the telltale signs of that would be frequent arousals during sleep. Body position plays a part, but it's essentially when tissues of the throat collapse in on the airway, and there's less airway movement, there's less air passing into the lungs, and so we see these drops in oxygen levels, which predominantly affect the cardiovascular system and the central nervous system. So with sleep apnea being so prevalent, we do worry about, you know, when there's what we call sleep-related hypoxemia, drops in oxygen levels, we do worry about cardiac arrhythmias, which is irregular heartbeats. We do worry about, the risk for heart attack and heart failure, and also high blood pressure, which is very common. And with the brain, with the central nervous system, the hippocampal neurons responsible for memory and concentration, if they're getting less oxygen, you know, they're going to be not operating as optimal. Other conditions, you know, difficulty falling asleep, not getting enough of sleep, you know, not getting 7 hours of. There's insomnia, there's nocturnal rumination where we can't relax and let go. That certainly can contribute, as you know, to daytime somnolence. Other conditions, narcolepsy, which is a fairly rare disorder that we see. Periodic limb movements, parasomnias, where there's inappropriate body movements during sleep can certainly contribute. Restless legs is another case. We tend to focus on the number of hours that we sleep, but also the purpose of sleep, is to restore your mind and body. So it's also important to make sure you're getting a high quality of sleep as well, not just the amount of sleep. And so that's why it's imperative to be evaluated by a provider, to undergo sleep testing if appropriate. Sleep testing allows us to look at what we call sleep architecture. There's different stages of sleep. we could say that sleep is split into two categories: non-REM sleep versus REM sleep. REM sleep standing for rapid eye movement. REM sleep is that dream state, which is crucial for cognitive function, like memory consolidation and learning. We seem to connect meaningful events from the day when we sleep at night during REM sleep. If we're not getting a proper amount of REM sleep, this can result in a cognitive decline, daytime exhaustion, non-restorative sleep, and we can even be accident prone. There are three things that just come to mind that can affect how much REM sleep we get, and one of them is alcohol consumption. Alcohol consumption can greatly fragment sleep and suppress deeper sleep like REM sleep. It should be consumed at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. The last drink should be consumed 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. There are certain medications that are prescribed, like antidepressants, that can suppress REM sleep. And of course, if there's any issues with breathing at night, what we call sleep apnea, that could certainly depress how much percentage of REM sleep we get given that. Non-REM sleep consists of several stages, the deepest one being delta. During that time, our brainwave activity during the stage is 10 times slower than what it is when we're awake. And it's during non-REM sleep that our body's working to strengthen our immune system, rebuild bone, and repair tissue. Really, what we want is sleep uninterrupted for about 7 hours, because we want to get an extended period of time, but ideally 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. This allows us to naturally move through all the stages of sleep. And going through this cycle multiple times is important for sleep quality, which is, a reason why consolidation of sleep, which is kind of one span, is essential. That would be the reason why napping during the day would not be such a good thing. That cheats how much REM sleep and how much consolidated sleep you get at nighttime. So, struggling to get a good night's sleep is nothing new. If you have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, it's best to see a sleep physician. And what I could do is I could leave you with some good tips potentially that might help you get a better night's sleep. The first, which is very important, would be to create a wake-up routine that helps set the brain to a motivated, productive mode. So you want to set a consistent wake-up time. Research has shown that people who perform repeated behaviors that have meanings to them, they feel more in control and they can better cope with anxiety. So set a wake-up time. Don't linger in bed. Get up, get active. Exposure to morning sunlight is key, especially in establishing a circadian rhythm. And since now we're in the spring, this would be a good time to kind of implement this. Getting up, being active. Light activates the cortical arousal systems, releasing energizing neurotransmitters and peptides like dopamine and serotonin. So getting up and moving early on, exercising is key. Exercise bathes the brain essentially with serotonin and dopamine. You don't want to exercise too late in the day. It's when our internal body core temperature is the lowest that we go into sleep. The thing I would say is resist napping. Afternoon napping would be a no-no. Again, we'd want to kind of consolidate how much sleep we get during the nighttime. And another thing is just unplugging before we go to bed, making sure we're minimizing how much exposure we have to these smart devices, which emit blue light, which inhibits our own melatonin release. So hopefully these tips will help you. If you have any symptoms that are alarming, if you feel sleep is not restorative, if you're finding you're waking yourself, you are waking up multiple times a night, if there's snoring, if you just feel that sleep, despite sleeping 7 hours, you don't feel that energy that you should, I think it's best to come on down and to be evaluated by a sleep physician. So if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.